Hello and welcome to Cracked Open, a podcast guiding you on your journey to becoming a vessel of unconditional love. This is your host, Beck Milonis, High Priestess, Channel, and Activator. Join me on this series as I share reflections, insights, and channel transmissions from my journey of walking the initiation path. Each episode is a unique transmission containing supportive frequencies to facilitate the deepest healing, activation, and reconnection with your soul. I invite you to open your mind and set the intention to receive this episode into your heart space. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to another episode. Today, I would love to drop into and speak on ego and speaking on this misconception we have on this spiritual journey of what it means to transcend the ego, the concept of an ego death and what that means and what that experience is like for someone who is going through that, and how we can come to a place where we are integrating fully our ego into our existence, and we are allowing ourselves to co-create with our ego, with our identity, rather than pushing against it or feeling we need to disown it or ignore it or evolve or transcend past it, right? So I want to begin this discussion today looking and feeling into what is the ego, right? So when we come here into this human body, into this incarnation, into this earth plane of existence that we have chosen to incarnate into, we merge, our soul merges with a body, a human vessel, which we choose, right? So we select what human vessel we want to come into, and various vessels have various configurations or difficulties or different temperaments or physical ailments or whatever that is, processing styles, for instance, like um, mental capacities. So we decide before we come here what kind of human would benefit us in whatever it is that we decide to experience in this lifetime. So we tactically choose a specific vessel, right? So you chose this vessel, this human that you are currently inhabiting, which you know as your identity. And our formative years, so as we are growing up, as we are moving into adolescent and our adulthood, our entire experience is around experiencing and knowing ourselves as separate, as a personality, as an identity. We begin to form this story, or this version of ourselves and who we are based on our upbringing, based on our environment, based on our personality traits, based on our desires and our skills and what we're good at, based on our relationship to others, to things in our reality. So are you a mother? Are you a child? Are you a daughter? Are you a wife? Are you a then you can go into occupations. Are you a healer? Are you a this? Are you a that? Right? We're constantly choosing to identify ourselves with things outside of ourselves so we can know who we are, right? So to form an identity or a way of understanding ourselves, we use other things in our reality, in our experience, to understand ourselves. And this is essentially what Source has done in its choice to incarnate and split itself off into all the fractals and fragments that are all of us having an experience through our individual identities. It's Source learning about itself through these individual experiences. So, hey, I want to experience what it is to be Beck and what it would look like experiencing this reality through Beck's perception or framework or way of being, or through this body that she chose to incarnate, through this experience, through this mental faculty, through whatever it is, right? So we choose the conditions that we come into, so we have one specific way of seeing the world, right? And then we form an identity around that. And our ego likes to think that it knows who we are, right? Because within these constraints of who we think we are, there is safety within that. When we think that we know ourselves as this label or this identity or this is the kind of person I am, and this is how I am in the world, and this is who I am, and this is what I do, right? We have all these neat little labels and ways to identify us as separate as who we are. It's a way of us really understanding ourselves, right? So we use these frameworks so we understand ourselves and so others can understand us, right? So there's this framework of understanding and relationship of not only within ourselves, like to ourselves. So I'm this person's daughter, this person's friend, I'm this role in society, I have this occupation, this is the kind of person I am, right? So we understand ourselves, but also so others can understand who we are in the world in our relationship to them, right? And an ego death is when something that you have believed about yourself to be true, or believed about the world that you live in, or the reality that you live in, is called into question in a dramatic way that shakes that perception or that reality to the core. So, this is what usually happens when someone begins to awaken. They begin the process of awakening and they have this dark night of the soul when they realize that all of these identities, all of these labels, all of these things that they have thought about themselves and about the world aren't necessarily true. And they are one fragment of reality based on what their thoughts, what their mind, what their programming, what their experience has taught them about the world. And they begin to understand that everything that they are seeing reflected in their reality, in this matrix, is simply a mirror to what their programming is, what their ego believes, what their personality believes to be true about the world, right? So, an ego death is when something shakes you out of that separation, shakes you out of what you think you are or who you think you are. Something calls into question something about your reality. This could happen through a divorce. So, say you identify as someone's partner for so long and then you have this divorce and it shakes you up and you're like, oh my God, I don't know who the fuck I am without this relationship or a job or, you know, like a dark night of the soul when you start to realize that the whole world is an illusion and it's bullshit, right? So, your reality seriously comes into question. Your framework of understanding and how you understand the world comes into question in a dramatic way. I want to use a framework to explain one experience that I had. I've had extreme amounts of ego deaths over this process, and it's like I have a new ego death every single day, and it's a death and a rebirth, and there's a whole new version of myself birthed out of that, a new way of understanding myself. But one of the most powerful experiences I had earlier in my journey was when I did a heroic dose of psilocybin mushrooms, and it was in a therapeutic setting. And this ego death was this moment where the medicine had come on so strongly that I had literally lost all sense of reality. I lost all sense of time and space. I lost all sense of night and day. So there was this point where I was like, I literally, it like all there is this infinite now moment. And tomorrow may never come and it doesn't matter because tomorrow doesn't really exist and there is no night, there is no day, there is no separation between me and that person over there and this person, this personality, this figure that I've created, this identity in my mind, this thing that I know is Beck, is it's not real. It doesn't exist, right? It's a fabrication that my mind is creating to be able to understand myself. And I remember there were these moments when I would have this recognition or this realization of none of this is real. This person and this experience that I'm having of this matrix, of this life, is not real. It doesn't exist. It's a fabrication from my mind. It's literally a projection. I am literally imagining that this physical reality is real. This body is real. My experiences are real. My feelings are real. My emotions are real. All the things that are going on in my life are real, and none of it is fucking real. And I don't actually exist, right? So I would have that moment and it would be this fear and panic that came over me of my ego, my identity, Beck saying, no, 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 I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to let go of what I know to be true because then I will cease to exist. And I don't know what is on the other side of me ceasing to exist because the ego thinks that once it ceases to exist and it lets go of those identities and those stories and those attachments, then there is nothing, right? There is nothingness. And the truth is, there is nothingness, but there is also the internal infinite everything at the same time. So it's the all and the nothing. It's the great paradox, right, of what source creation, of what the universe is. So I would let go for a moment and I would merge into everything. Like the moment I let go and I allowed myself to just be like, okay, I'm not real. I don't exist. That's fine. Beck doesn't exist. And I would let go and I would merge into this love and this present moment awareness of just being in this vortex of quantum space and time and energy and feeling everything and feeling nothing and melding into all of this energy, right? And I felt that interconnectedness that people talk about in these mystical experiences of experiencing God or experiencing transcendental states or whatever that is. And I would feel that for a moment and it would be so freeing. And it was this feeling of like nothing fucking matters. Nothing matters anyway, right? It doesn't matter. It was this existential delight of like not even dread, it was delight of like, oh my God, the things that I worry about, it doesn't matter. This lifetime is an illusion. It's this small little blip. And all the things that this personality that I call Beck is going through, they don't fucking matter in the grand scheme of things because it's not real anyway. Huge existential crisis I was having. And when I would let go and soften into that, it was like freedom. And I expanded completely past my body and melded into everything. It was incredible. And then I would feel this dragging fear, all this pain, all this sensation in me, pulling me back, saying, no, 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 it's not safe. It's not safe. You need to come back. You need to come back. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And that was my relationship to understanding what an ego death was. It was this power play or this fight or this conflict between the part of me that was so much more than this limited personality and this experience that I'm having as a human in this incarnation with my mind and my stories and my identities and my suffering, to then let that go and meld into this infinite allness, everythingness, which is also the nothingness, to then drag myself back because it was so overwhelming for me to try and fathom what that was, right? It's like beyond what I could ever possibly imagine or fathom with my mind. And so every time I tried to grasp it, what is this? What is this now moment? What is this infinity? What is this merging into everything? Every time I tried to understand it, I would be dragged back down into my ego kicking and screaming and saying, I don't want to die. I don't want to let go. I don't want to release control. I don't want to let something else take over my world because I feel like there's some safety in the known. I feel like there's some safety in the identity, in the stories, in the personality that I have created for myself. And so, really, what our ego is, it's our mind, it's a construct, it's our reptilian brain. It is the thing that allows and enables us to function within this matrix reality, right? You need your ego to function within this physical reality because it is the signals that are bringing back that stimulation, causing those sensations, causing you to have this perception of reality, to be able to be in this physical reality. It's creating the construct of separateness. So I perceive this microphone as a separate object from me because my mind is telling me that's a microphone. It's here. I'm here. There is distance. There is separation. The truth is, there is no separation between this microphone and me. I don't exist. The microphone doesn't exist. None of this physical stuff is real, right? That you can't be in a physical matrix, in a physical reality, having a human experience without that ego identity presenting everything as separate, right? We need to experience that separation and the who am I? Am I this? Am I this? Am I this? Am I this? Am I you? Am I me? To have our experience of separation, to be able to let go of that experience. Really ironic, right? To let go of that experience of separation to then merge back into source. So it's like you need these identities, you need these labels, you need this framework of understanding of who you are to then realize that that's not who you are and see what you truly are, which is the transcendent form or the soul inhabiting this human experience, right? So we can get really caught up on identifying with these labels and these things. And I've done this so much in my life. Oh, I'm a healer. I'm a shaman. I'm a priestess. I'm a burlesque performer. I'm a speaker. I'm a girl. I'm a woman. I'm a this. I'm a that. Right? And we have these labels and these identities that we become very attached to, or we could become attached to a story or an element of our shadow. So I'm a victim. I am wounded in some way. I'm hard done by. I am, um, you know, struggling. I am addicted to my suffering. I have this story of it never works out for me. I have this story of it's always difficult. I have this story of people always abandon me. I have this story of I am this child that grew up with trauma, and therefore my life's really difficult, right? And it can become really frustrating when you become aware of all of these thoughts and this dialogue that your mind is running, the subconscious programming and the stories and the attachments and the identities, and you feel like you can't control it, right? And you feel like there is so much negative energy in my mind and there's so many negative thoughts and identities and patterns and things going on, and I feel like I can't ever control it, guys. I have this constant feeling of like there is so much darkness going on in my head all the time, and if any of you were to see the dialogue that's constantly going in my mind, you probably wouldn't think I'm this fucking enlightened healer, right? But ironically, that's also what enables me to speak so authentically and truthfully and honestly, because I grapple with this constantly. I grapple with my human all the fucking time. I'm constantly in a battle with my mind, with my ego, trying to cling to things, trying to hold on to things, to understand this experience that I'm having by attaching, trying to keep myself safe and in limitation. Because if I stay small, I won't get hurt. If I don't put myself out there, I won't get rejected. If I don't take a risk, it can't possibly blow up in my face, right? So constantly dealing with this stuff, dealing with these mental the mental chatter or the thoughts, and being like, I really should be better at this. I should have more mastery of my mind. And I know that if I had more mastery of my mind, the energy that I'm able to command through my body and who I am at a soul level, I'd be unfuckwithable. I would be so powerful, if I was able to truly gain control of my mind in the way that I desire to, right? So I know what it's like to have this ongoing constant battle. And it's probably in a way a gift because it keeps me humble. Because maybe if I had complete mastery of my mind, my power would get out of control. I don't know what that is, right? There's a reason why I chose to enter this body with maybe I have some chemistry that's not in balance, or I have a negative disposition or whatever that is. I chose to inhabit this body um with these, I don't want to say complications because they're not complications, but these ways of processing things and this disposition that I've had to fight against my whole life, right? And I felt like I've had to fight against myself, my ego, my human all the time. I'm always pulling my human along, being like, come on, let it go. Like, surrender. Like, it's cool. You're safe. It's good. And every time I reach a new level, it's the same shit, right? And I've resented that a lot and been like, it's not fucking fair. Why do I have all these negative thoughts? And why can't you just get over it? And why can't I just be positive and, say affirmations and have them work and whatever it is? So I understand what that battle is like. Trust me, I understand what it's like to be constantly battling dark thoughts, that I know aren't serving me and that I know are not creating realities that I desire to experience. But what I've seen in my experience and what I've seen in this journey is that there's so much like ragging on the ego, or negating it, or saying it's bad and you need to transcend past it and let it go, and stop letting it run your life, and stop this and stop that, and like tell it to shut up and bypass it and whatever it is, pace these constant like positive thoughts over it. And to a degree, some of that is true. And yes, we need to be mindful of what we're creating and what's going on in our mind, because we're seeing that constantly being reflected at us. But can you soften and see that your ego is not the enemy, right? Like, it's a gift to be able to have this experience and experience things in this way through this human lens, through this human perception. And it's by design, right? We chose to come here and be a human because we desired to experience that separation, because we desired to experience what it was like to have a mind that was limited in some way, and to then have that experience of removing those limitations or gaining mastery over that mind or whatever it is. And it's learning, like, how can I develop a relationship with my ego where I take it along the way, right? Because the mind is super powerful and it's a computer, right? It can be programmed and you can program it without knowing what you're programming it with subconsciously, and it can be running some really shitty programs that are not helpful, or it can be programmed with positivity and love and your intention, right? And so there's nothing wrong with the computer. It's the programming that is running through that computer. So can you identify that programming with love and with grace? And instead of blaming yourself and being angry when that programming shows up, when you're recognizing those stories and those patterns and those identities that you've perhaps clinged to and now you need to let go of, can you soften and be graceful when that stuff is showing up and see, oh, I see, okay, I've attached an identity to my success, or I've attached an identity to this version of myself. And I'm now choosing to see the world through one framework of existence, and it's limiting me. Can I see where my ego is limiting me, where perhaps it's keeping me separate from other people because I'm caught up in my experience and this version of what's going on, rather than seeing it as that person is another fractal of me, another fractal of source, and they're having an experience. And can I let go of my pain and my suffering and my experience to see what they're going through, or take on a different perspective, or learn something new, or expand past an identity, or let go of something that I thought was true about myself? Because when you can let go of these things that you think are true about yourself or are true about the world, that offers you the potential to experience something new and different, something more expansive, something more open, something more loving, something more freeing, right? Because as long as we attach ourselves to these personalities and identities, then we allow them to keep creating our reality. And we're not allowing our soul, source, our higher self to take the wheel and guide us towards what is best for us. So it's like, yeah, recognize, be with, love, and have acceptance and non judgment for the parts of yourself that are really fucking human, that are creating these stories, that are attaching to the identities. But can you try and take that part of you by the hand and guide it, lovingly guide it? Hey, I see that you're just trying to keep me safe. I see that you're afraid. I see that you are literally just doing your best with the programming that you have to move through whatever life is showing up and bringing to you. And you're just trying to protect me. You're my reptilian brain. You're not trying to hurt me. You're not trying to, I used to get angry and be like, fuck you. You're holding me back. You're making me fail, whatever it is. Like, I'm so angry at you and I get angry at myself. But can we see those aspects of ourselves and say, hey, thanks. Thank you for trying to protect me. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. Thank you for allowing me to experience this reality. Thank you for showing me where I'm still holding myself as separate, or where I'm limiting myself in some way based on some label or identity that I'm trying to tell myself this is what I am. Because when you can let go of this is what I am, you see that that's actually not what you are, and that you're so much more than that. And anytime you've said this is what I am, then you are basically cutting yourself off from being the inverse of that, which is not that. So if you say I am having this experience and this is what I am, then you'll never get to experience not being that, right? I just said the same thing twice in a different way, but I hope you understand the core of what I'm trying to say. So it's not about transcending your ego by killing it, or completely letting it go and not and living in these expanded states where you're beyond your human all of the time, right? Because there is a time and a space for us to have that human experience and be in the human experience and experience the sensation and experience the emotion and the limitation and the separation. And then there is a time for us to put that ego aside and say, okay, it's time for me it's time for me to be ready to let go of some of this stuff and allow it to see it from my soul's perspective, because I can see it from my human's perspective, and that's one perspective. And I understand that that perspective is only coming from the framework that I have to understand life, or what I think about myself, or what I believe about myself. But there is a different perspective that's available to me, and that's my soul's perspective. That's source's perspective. And so can I take this take my part, this part of myself, just had my foot go dead and I had to move it, and then it was all a big drama. Can I take this part of myself and help it to expand and evolve with me? Can I equip it with the skills and the new programming and the new ways of coping or the new strategies? Can I bring that part of myself back to peace? Can I thank that part of myself for every time it overcame some stuff and it protected me or it kept me safe or it gave me an idea or it allowed me to do something, right? Because, like I said earlier, without your mind, you wouldn't be able to manifest. The manifest happens from the thought is the mind. You literally would not be able to manifest your desires if you didn't have your mind, right? So you can be angry at your mind, or you could realize that it's your most powerful tool and you can be creating unconsciously, or you could be creating consciously. And instead of negating it and trying to shut it down and hating it and being like, you're stopping me from ascending and evolving and expanding, being transcendental, whatever, realizing that while you're here, it's never going to die. It's never going to go away, right? While you are in a human body experiencing this incarnation, this life, it will never die. It will never go away. It will always be there. And so, can you learn to love it? Can you learn to feed it with things that are positive and uplifting and kind and loving and compassionate? Can you take it with you on the journey and recognize it's a fucking superpower when you can start to meld it with your essence and with your soul, right? Because we can be limited by our human experience and our human bodies and get angry at our humans, get angry at how they're holding us back and our fears and our beliefs and our traumas and all of this stuff is preventing us from having what we desire. Or we can choose to take it with us and take it on the evolutionary journey with us to expand the technology, to upgrade the computer, to invite it into the new way of being, right? I had this experience this morning in meditation with myself where I was sitting with my ego and I was like, thank you. I love you. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. Thank you for showing me where I'm afraid of this next level. Thank you for showing me where, I'm still fighting. I'm still trying to control things. I'm still trying to micromanage the universe and force my timing and not divine timing, right? Thank you for showing me where I am trying to control everything. And also, it's okay for us. It's safe for us to let go. Thank you for fighting for me for all those years. Thank you for keeping me safe. Like literally, you fighting and protecting me was what kept me safe, is what kept me alive up until this point. But it's time for us to let go of that. Like there's a different way of being, and that is the full trust and faith and surrender into God and allowing that to fill us up, allow that to give us security rather than our identities and our personality. Like imagine if you felt so secure and so connected to who you truly were, which is love, by the way, to who you are at your core, at your source, at your soul's frequency, that you didn't have to attach to identities to understand yourself anymore. Imagine that. Imagine how you would perceive every situation that was showing up in your life if you weren't trying to prove something, if you weren't trying to um, limit yourself by how other people are going to perceive you or how you come across or what it looks like or what that means about you, right? They're just stories and they're not the truth, right? And so that's what my experience was this morning. It was like, come with me. I want to take you with me on this journey. I'm not abandoning you. I'm not leaving you behind. I'm not saying that we're going to reach this new level and then fuck you, ego, you're out the window. You can't come with me. It's like, I want you to come with me, Beck. I want you to have this experience with me. I want you to grow and evolve and expand with me because I recognize how powerful you are. And I mean, you've created some really amazing stuff, really painful, like horrible stuff, but look how much you've created. It's so powerful that you've literally been blocking me from all of my desires. That's how strong and powerful you are. That's how magical you are, that everything that you wanted, you've created. Even though I don't want that on some conscious level, I don't desire that. There's some part of me that wants that. And you've created it. And how fucking cool is that? And magical is it that you created all of that? Congratulations. Look at you creating shit, right? That's the relationship I'm trying to have with my ego at the moment, instead of being like, you fucking create all this stuff and it sucks and I'm shitty about it. Right? No, like you created that and you're actually an ally and a friend. And can we have a dialogue? Like, can we have a dialogue when you're feeling afraid and you're about to meet an edge, or an identity is being questioned, and be like, cool, what does this allow for us to experience instead? And can we see this as empowering and new and exciting and not scary, right? Can I remind that part of myself that it can't die, that there is no death, that it's limitless, that it's transcendental, that that version of me is going to die, right? It's going to die. And it's like, whoa, I'm literally going to die. Part of me is going to die. But that's not the end. There's another version that gets to be born, which has a little bit more knowledge or wisdom or grace or love or compassion or whatever that is. And this is a never ending process. Like, the person that I'm going to be tomorrow is not the person that I was yesterday. And I've said this in other episodes, but that change and that expansion can keep happening. And so it's reminding your ego that that's constant, and that it doesn't have to be the end of the story, that all the things that it's freaking out about, having a panic attack about it, they're not real. They're just projections, right? Most of the things that we are so afraid of happening are just thoughts. The actual situation and the scenario is never as bad as what you project or what you think might happen, right? So that's kind of where I want to leave it. And I invite you to develop a relationship with your ego, with your shadow aspects, with the parts of you that you repress because you believe that they're not lovable, because you believe that they're ugly, because you believe that they're frustrating and they piss you off, or whatever that is. When you can develop a relationship with them, you begin to take them with you on the journey, right? And they evolve as you evolve. They grow as you evolve, as you grow, and it allows you to really start to have more precision over what you're creating. And it's a powerful, powerful gift. Our mind is so powerful and it's so magical, and it offers us the capacity to imagine and to sense and to see and to perceive and to experience this waking dream. And so it's not the enemy, right? It's not, we are not the enemy. Our personality is not the enemy. It doesn't need to be killed, it doesn't need to be dispensed with. It just needs to be integrated and loved and seen and heard and witnessed and brought into its divinity, right? Its divine form. And that is my message for today. Thank you for listening to another episode of Cracked Open. Don't forget to hit subscribe and share with a friend if this episode has served you in any way. For more information about the work that I do, or to get in touch with me, read the show notes or head to beckmylonis.com. Until next time, beautiful soul.